Welcome to In the Field Audio Bible's Easter mini-series, The Kiss, the Cross, and the Crown. My name is Christy, your host for this sixth episode called From the Tomb to the Testimony, Encounters with the Risen Christ. Over the course of these 7 episodes, we will walk through the final days of Jesus Christ, from the moment of Judas's betrayal to his glorious ascension. Tonight, we stand at the foot of the cross, where Jesus is crucified at Golgotha, bearing the weight of our sins. We witness his final breath and follow as he is laid in the tomb, leaving us in the silence of his death. Through his suffering and resurrection, the veil is torn, granting us direct access to him. We just stood at the foot of the cross and witnessed the earth tremble as Jesus, the Son of God, took his final breath. The sky had darkened at midday, and a natural shroud of mourning cast over Jerusalem. And when he cried out, "It is finished," the veil of the temple tore from top to bottom, a divine proclamation that the barrier between God and man had been forever torn away. Tonight, we step deeper into the heart of this mystery. We will follow those who loved him: Mary, his mother, John, the beloved disciple, and Mary Magdalene, as they stand in the chilling winds of Golgotha, their faces streaked with tears, watching the lifeless body of their Lord hang limp on the cross. We will listen to the murmurs of the Roman soldiers, uncertain of what they have just witnessed. And we will walk beside Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus as they carry his broken body to the tomb, the weight of sorrow heavier than the stone that will soon seal it. The wind had picked up, chilling the damp air as the 3 crosses on Golgotha cast long shadows in the fading light. The sun, hidden behind an unnatural veil of darkness, barely lingered on the horizon. A few torches flickered in the hands of Roman soldiers, their faces unreadable as they stood watch, their once mocking tones now hushed with uncertainty. At the foot of the cross, Mary, the mother of Jesus, clung to John, her grief too deep for words. Her son, her child, hung lifeless before her, his broken body, his blood soaking the dust beneath her feet. Mary Magdalene knelt beside her, her body trembling from both the cold and the weight of despair. Then came the movement. Joseph of Arimathea, a secret disciple of Jesus, stepped forward. With him was Nicodemus, the Pharisee who had once sought Jesus under the cover of night. They had gone to Pilate himself, their hearts pounding in their chest as they entered the governor's quarters. Pilate had stared at them in silence, his fingers drumming against the armrest of his seat. "You wish to take the body of this man?" he asked, his voice laced with both curiosity and fatigue. Joseph bowed slightly, his voice steady. "Yes, my lord, he is dead, and according to our custom, he must be buried before the Sabbath begins." Pilate exhaled slowly, glancing at his advisors. Then, after a moment of consideration, he nodded. "Very well, but verify with the centurion first. If he is truly dead, you may have him." The 2 men left swiftly, making their way back to Golgotha, where a centurion stood, his broad shoulders rigid, his eyes hollow. This was no ordinary soldier. This was the man who had overseen the execution. He had heard Jesus' last words. He had felt the earth quake beneath his feet, and he had seen the darkness cover the land like a burial shroud. Joseph and Nicodemus approached him cautiously. "The governor has granted us permission to take his body," Joseph said. The centurion studied them for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then his gaze flickered to the lifeless form hanging before him. He had seen many men die, but never like this. Never with such authority, such peace, such finality. He inhaled deeply before speaking. "I saw him breathe his last," he murmured. This was no ordinary man. Nicodemus, who had long wrestled with his own beliefs, felt a chill run down his spine at the soldier's words. "Then you believe?" he asked softly. The centurion hesitated, his jaw tightening. "I don't know what I believe," he admitted, "but I know that when he died, the earth itself seemed to cry out. The temple veil was torn, the sky darkened. I have seen crucifixions before, dozens, maybe hundreds, but I have never seen the heavens mourn a man's death." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the centurion exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "Take him," he said, his voice quieter now, "and bury him with dignity." And so, with great care, they began the painful process of removing Jesus from the cross. The creak of nails being pulled from flesh, the muffled gasp of those watching, and the strained breathing of Joseph and Nicodemus as they bore the weight of the man they had secretly followed. John assisted, his hands steady despite his shaking heart. Joseph and Nicodemus had prepared. Earlier, Nicodemus had secured a mixture of myrrh and aloe, about 75 pounds in weight, a burial preparation fit for a king. The fragrance was strong, mixing with the night air as they wrapped his bruised body in linen. Myrrh and frankincense had been brought to him at his birth by wise men from the east, a gift meant for a king. And now, in his death, he was anointed once more. The tomb itself was significant. It was hewn from rock, untouched by decay, meant for a man of wealth, and yet it would hold the body of a king who needed no earthly resting place. The weight of grief was matched only by the weight of the stone that would soon seal the entrance. As the stone rolled into place, the world outside the tomb remained still. Silence hung heavy in the air. The night crept forward, cold and unyielding. Within that tomb, Jesus' body lay undisturbed. A king's body wrapped in linen, the fragrance of myrrh and aloe still lingering faintly in the air. It was a burial fit for a king, though this was no ordinary king. No, this was the Son of God, the Lamb who had borne the weight of the world's sins, now laid in a borrowed tomb. The night wore on, the stars above untouched by the events below, as if the very heavens awaited the next chapter of this grand story. But for now, all was quiet. As the great stone settled into place, sealing the tomb, Pilate issued one final order. Guards, not just any soldiers, but men hardened by war, disciplined, and unwavering. these were not ordinary watchmen. They were the elite of the Roman ranks, chosen for their loyalty, their resilience, and their ability to silence unrest before it could begin. The order had come from the religious leaders, those who still trembled at the words Jesus had spoken in life. We remember, they had told Pilate, that this deceiver said, "After 3 days I will rise again." And so, fearing deception, they demanded that a guard be placed at the tomb, lest his followers steal the body and proclaim him risen. Pilate, weary and indifferent, had waved a hand. "You have your guard," he said. "Make the tomb as secure as you know how." And so they came, seasoned soldiers, men who had seen the worst of humanity on battlefields soaked in blood. They were not concerned with the truth of Jesus' claims. To them, this was another post, another task assigned by those in power. They had carried out crucifixions before. The death of this so-called prophet was no different. At least, that's what they told themselves. Yet, something gnawed at them. Many of these men had been at Golgotha. They had heard his final words. They had felt the tremor beneath their feet when he breathed his last. Some had watched in uneasy silence as the temple veil was torn in two, as the sky darkened without warning. And though they were men of steel, men of war, a whisper of doubt lingered in the back of their minds. One of them, a centurion, one who had stood closest to the cross, shifted uneasily as he peered at the sealed tomb. He had declared it himself as Jesus died. Truly, this man was the Son of God. He did not say it lightly. The weight of those words still pressed upon his chest. The others did not speak of it, but their unease was evident, their eyes flickering toward the massive stone as if expecting it to move of its own accord. The night stretched on, and the air grew thick with tension. Though they were trained to stand guard without fear, a strange heaviness settled over them, as if they were standing not before the grave of a mere man, but at the threshold of something far greater than themselves. They did not know yet, but they were not merely guarding a tomb. They were standing on the precipice of the greatest event in human history. And before this night was over, their duty, this simple watch over a lifeless body, would become a testimony they could neither explain nor deny. For though they had been chosen to keep death locked away, they would soon bear witness to life itself breaking forth. Inside the tomb, there was no sound but the soft rustling of linen. The body of Jesus, though cold and still, held a divine presence in the stillness. The world outside may have thought him to be lost, gone forever, sealed behind stone. But those who had truly known him understood that death had no claim on this king. It was the Sabbath, the day of rest. The faithful were scattered, too grief-stricken to do anything but mourn. The disciples, scattered in fear, wondered what the next day would bring. But even as they lay in their sorrow, God was not idle. The earth itself held its breath as the dawn of a new creation was poised to break. But for this night, this sacred night, Jesus rested, and while his followers wept and the stone sat heavy over the entrance, there was an undeniable truth growing quietly in the darkness. Death would not have the final word. In the tomb, Jesus lay in quiet slumber, his body bruised and broken, but even in death, he was not defeated. The world, which had so recently mocked him, now awaited the moment when his power would shine forth in glory. Little did they know, in the midst of their mourning, the resurrection was already beginning its quiet work, preparing to burst forth in the light of the third day. The dawn of the third day was approaching, and with it the fulfillment of every promise, every prophecy, every hope that had laid bare in the life of Jesus Christ. The tomb, which seemed to hold the finality of death, would soon be the birthplace of life anew. The third day had come. Darkness still veiled the land, the first streaks of dawn barely beginning to chase away the night. The world lay in quiet slumber, unaware that the course of history was about to change. The Roman guards stood in weary silence before the tomb. They had been stationed there for 2 long nights, shifting uneasily in their armor, gripping their spears a little too tightly. The weight of the silence pressed on them, thick and unnatural. Some had dismissed their unease as foolishness. Others, the ones who had seen the sky blacken and the earth shake when Jesus died, said nothing at all. And then the ground shuddered beneath their feet. Pebbles leapt and danced in the dust. The air itself seemed to tremble. And then, from the heavens, a light. Brighter than the sun, it split through the night, illuminating the garden like the dawn of creation itself. And from the radiance descended a figure, robed in lightning, his face like fire, his presence overwhelming. An angel of the Lord. The guards barely had time to react. Their bodies seized with terror as the being approached, his radiance burning away every shadow. And then, with a force beyond human strength, the angel reached out. The great stone that had sealed the tomb, set in place by human hands, guarded by the might of Rome, rolled away as if it were nothing. Dust and debris scattered into the air as the angel moved it aside, and with the presence of both commanding and unshakable, sat upon it. The soldiers? Their bravado was gone. Their discipline, training, their years of war hardened strength. None of it could prepare them for this. They collapsed, their bodies frozen in terror, their limbs like dead weight. Some fell to the ground as if lifeless, their faces pale as death. And then, panic. They scrambled to their feet, some fleeing blindly into the trees, others tripping over themselves in desperate terror. The might of Rome had been reduced to trembling shadows in the face of heaven's power. The tomb was open. Empty. Not long after, before the sun had fully risen, footsteps echoed on the path leading to the garden. A group of women, moving quickly, their veils pulled tightly against the cool morning air. Among them, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Mary, wife of Clopas. They had come with spices, prepared to anoint the body. They had spent the Sabbath and morning, waiting for the moment they could tend to him, to honor him in death as they had in life. But as they neared the tomb, they saw it. The great stone rolled away. Their hearts pounded. Something was wrong. Mary Magdalene broke into a run, her breath coming in short gasps as she reached the entrance. She peered inside, her hands trembling, and what she saw made her blood run cold. nothing. The body of Jesus was gone. And then, figures, clothed in white, gleaming like the morning sun. 2 men, no, angels, standing within the tomb. Mary and the others stumbled back in fear, their hands over their mouths, their knees threatening to give way. One of the angels turned to them and spoke. His voice was steady, calm, yet carrying the weight of eternity itself. Do not be afraid. Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen, just as he said. The words struck like lightning in their hearts. Risen? Could it be? Could the impossible, the unthinkable have happened? Mary, mother of Jesus, and Mary, wife of Clopas, turned, their feet already moving before they could think. They had to tell the others. The world had changed. Death had lost its sting. The grave had no victory. The stone was rolled away and the tomb was empty. Jesus was alive. The dim glow of an oil lamp flickered in the small room where the 3 women sat close together, their hands wrapped around cups of warm broth. The scent of earth and spices lingered in the air, remnants of the morning's purpose, one that had been shattered the moment they reached the tomb. Mary, mother of Jesus, sat with her shoulders slightly hunched, her face lined with sorrow but marked by something deeper, an understanding, a knowing. Mary, the wife of Clopas, sat beside her, her shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders as if trying to shield herself from the tremors that still shook her soul. And then there was Mary Magdalene, her eyes still wide with wonder, her hands trembling slightly, as if her very body could not contain what she had seen. It was Mary Magdalene who spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. I still feel as if I'm dreaming. She shook her head, gripping the wooden cup in her hands. We left before the sun rose, the night air still clinging to our skin. My heart was heavy, so heavy I thought it might crush me. And you both felt it too. Mary, wife of Clopas, nodded, her fingers tightening around the fabric at her chest. We had barely spoken as we walked. What was there to say? Our Lord, our hope, was gone. Her voice cracked. And yet, when we reached the tomb, she trailed off, unable to speak the words. Mary, the mother of Jesus, lifted her eyes. The stone, she murmured. It was no longer there. Mary Magdalene nodded. I remember the way my breath caught in my throat. The guards were nowhere in sight. The stone was rolled away, the darkness inside stretching out before us like a gaping wound. We stepped forward, Mary, the wife of Clopas, added, terrified, and then we saw them. She shuddered. Angels. Mary, the mother of Jesus, closed her eyes briefly. The brightness, the presence, I could not bear it. Her voice was quiet yet firm. It was not just the sight of them. It was knowing. She exhaled. It was knowing that something beyond our understanding had happened, and the weight of it was too much. I ran, Mary, wife of Clopas, admitted, her voice thick with shame. I could not stand in that place a moment longer. Mary, the mother of Jesus, reached out, placing a gentle hand over hers. You were not alone. The two women turned their eyes to Mary Magdalene, who had remained behind. She stared at them now, her lips parted as if searching for words. Finally, she spoke. I wept. The other two women said nothing, waiting. I stood outside the tomb, weeping. Mary Magdalene continued, her voice barely above a whisper. The ache in my chest was unbearable. I thought they had taken him. I thought it was over. She drew a shaky breath. And then I saw him. Mary, wife of Clopas, leaned in. You saw Jesus? Mary Magdalene nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. At first, I did not recognize him. I thought he was the gardener. A soft, almost trembling laugh escaped her lips. I begged him. I said, Sir, if you have taken him, tell me where you have laid him, and I will go and get him. She swallowed hard, her hands clutching at her chest as if she could still feel the moment inside her. And then he spoke my name. The room was utterly still. Mary, the mother of Jesus, whispered, He called you by name. Mary Magdalene nodded. The moment he said it, Mary, it was as if the entire world shifted. My heart knew before my mind did. It was him, my Lord, my teacher. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she did not wipe them away. I fell to my knees. I reached for him. She let out a shaky breath, but he stepped back. Mary, wife of Clopas, frowned. He would not let you touch him? Mary Magdalene shook her head. He looked at me with such love, such tenderness, and he said, Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. Mary, the mother of Jesus, closed her eyes. He was telling you. He was not yet finished. Mary Magdalene nodded. He told me to go and tell the others, to tell them that he was ascending to his Father and our Father, to his God and our God. She let out a breath, her hands trembling. I ran from that place as fast as my feet could carry me. My heart felt as if it would burst, not from sorrow, but from something else, something I did not recognize at first. Mary, wife of Clopas, reached out for her hand. Hope. Mary Magdalene let out a small, tearful laugh. Yes. Mary, the mother of Jesus, looked at both of them, her eyes steady. And now we must tell them again. Mary Magdalene nodded. They will believe. Mary, wife of Clopas, exhaled. They must. Mary, the mother of Jesus, reached for their hands, her grip warm and firm. "Yes," she murmured, "they will." And with that, the three Marys rose, no longer just grieving women, but bearers of the greatest news the world would ever hear. And so, dear listener, we find ourselves once again at the foot of the cross. The sun hangs heavy in the sky, its light dimmed, as if the heavens themselves cannot bear to witness the suffering below. The cries of those who loved him blend with the mockery of those who did not understand. And there, suspended between heaven and earth, is Jesus, the one who fed the hungry, healed the sick, restored the broken, the one who calmed the storms with a word and called the dead from their graves. Now, he is silent, beaten, bleeding, forsaken. Have you ever felt forsaken? Have you ever cried out to God in your suffering, only to be met with silence? The cross teaches us a difficult truth. Suffering is part of the human story. Even the Son of God was not spared pain, and yet in this moment of agony, love speaks its loudest. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Even in his last breath, he gives, he loves, he surrenders. And then it is finished. His body is taken down, wrapped carefully in linen, and laid in a tomb. A stone is rolled into place, sealing what appears to be the end of a movement, the end of hope, the end of everything his followers had believed in. And so begins the waiting. Perhaps you know this waiting well. The space between heartbreak and healing, between prayers and answers, between the darkness of loss and the dawn of new beginnings. It is a place where hope feels distant, where questions outnumber certainty. The disciples knew this waiting intimately. Their dreams lay buried behind a stone, and all they could do was wonder if they had been wrong to believe. But what they did not yet know, what we sometimes fail to see in our own seasons of waiting, is that God was not absent. He was at work in the unseen, moving beyond their understanding. And then, on the third day, everything changed. Imagine stepping into the morning air, the sky tinged with the soft colors of dawn. The garden is quiet, save for the whispers of the wind through the trees. Mary Magdalene walks towards the tomb, heavy heart with grief. The spices in her hands are meant for a body she believes is still lying there. But when she arrives, she stops. The stone, immovable, unbreakable, has been rolled away. She peers inside, expecting to find death. But there is nothing. The burial cloths lie empty. The silence of the grave has been broken. The absence of a body is not a sign of loss, but of victory. And then, her name, Mary. One word, spoken in love, turns her sorrow into joy. She sees him. The one she thought was gone stands before her, alive, radiant, victorious. What was dead now breathes. What was lost is found. What seemed like the end was only the beginning. And so, dear friend, where do you find yourself in this story? Are you standing at the cross, carrying the weight of suffering? Are you waiting in the silence of the tomb, wondering if God sees you? Or are you standing at the empty grave, trying to believe that hope is possible? The cross teaches us that pain is real, but love remains. The tomb reminds us that waiting is part of the journey, but silence does not mean absence. And the resurrection, it declares that no matter how final something seems, God is not finished. This is your invitation to believe what feels like the end could be the doorway to something new. To trust that even when you cannot see Him, God is at work. To step out of fear and into faith. To carry with you the unshakable truth that Jesus has conquered all that once held us captive. He is risen. Thank you for joining me tonight as we journeyed through the 6th episode of The Kiss, the Cross, and the Crown. I pray you carry these reflections with you into your day, into your week, and that you find strength in knowing God is with you in every trial, every temptation, and every step of obedience. If this time in God's Word has encouraged you, take a moment to share it with someone who might need it. And be sure to join me next time as we continue walking from Judas's kiss to Jesus' ascension, learning, growing, and staying faithful in the field of life. Until next time, may you find peace in the quiet, trust in God's call, and rest in His unchanging love. This is In the Field Audio Bible, where we listen to the Bible one chapter at a time. Thank you for listening to The Kiss, the Cross, and the Crown, brought to you by In the Field Media, a nonprofit ministry dedicated to sharing the message of faith through the spoken word with In the Field Audio Bible, uplifting worship on WFWR, In the Field Worship Radio, and inspiring Christian programming on In the Field TV. If this mini-series has blessed you, we invite you to support future series with a tax-deductible donation at inthefieldAudiobible.com/donate. Every contribution goes directly to this digital ministry, helping spread the gospel to hearts around the world. From all of us at In the Field Media, thank you for being a part of this journey. May God's grace and peace be with you always.